Welcome to the Historic District Commission workshop. It's April 19th, 2025. March, I'm sorry. I'm speeding it along. I'm tired of the cold weather. Cassie, do you want to?
Sure. So we had discussed a couple of months ago trying to find a way to increase some public outreach for people who have property in the historic district, especially new owners to properties in the historic district, so that they can kind of know both what the district is, what the commission's function is, and also maybe know more about the process that they need to go through when they need to apply for changes to their property. I found these old brochures in my office that were used a number of years ago. They are a little out of date, namely in the city address, and of course they don't have our current preservation website on there, but we could find some solution to reuse these, whether that just be printing new ones with the correct websites on them, or we can totally redo them if somebody wants to take that on. I'm not a graphic designer, so I will not be redesigning any brochures. But that's what is an easy option, I think, especially with something that's already mostly put together for us. Also, in response to that comment that was made a few months ago, I received an email from Kelly Dennis, former clerk at the Eureka Post Office, who mentioned that we could use Every Door direct mail to send a lot of these brochures out by mail to people in the historic district. It would be about 22 cents per piece, which could be about $400 to $500 for the amount of properties there are. But of course, that's every single property. That's not counting people who own multiple properties who perhaps don't need to receive 6 copies of the same brochure. But so that's an option. Mass mailing is an option that we could look into, and that's what I printed out for you all, was just straight from the post office.
People would that be to know?
I don't know. I just did a rough estimate on how many properties and between my map and then also what the post office website had. If we were actually going to mail them out, I would really try to pare down that number.
Cassie, do you know, does anyone know who printed this originally? Do you know?
Glenna did it.
Who did?
Glenna.
I mean, the company.
She just did it on, I don't know. I don't think she did it locally.
You don't think she did locally?
No, I don't. She did, no. I actually went down and asked Kate if we could do something about the, and we could put a new sticker right here. Yeah, if you wanted to put another sticker, we do have to keep the little fine print because it's partially paid by a grant, so that part does have to stay. But we could always put another sticker over, one of these pictures or something.
And as far as money, we do now have access to the money in the historic preservation account with the bank, so we can always use our own funds for any of this printing or mailing.
Okay. I like Dee's idea about the sticker. I think that's a great way to use. How many of these do we still have? Do you know?
I don't know the count.
Just approximate. I mean, are we talking a couple of hundred or more than that?
I think we have more than 200.
Because I have a few stacks that I think are about this tall. I have a few stacks. They're all like on the top of my...
I think it'd be a great idea to use
900,
these.
I don't know,
And mail them out, and then check with someone local, or if you've got this saved on computer files. I'm not sure if Glenna did it. It should be saved in that
Well, it might be saved on the
tower I don't have access to.
The tower that she doesn't have access to. But now that we have to go back to, I believe, September or October minutes, what we voted on, what Glenna, when she, after...
All that was voted on was to renew the preservation website. That was all that was voted on.
Okay.
And I forgot why we needed that
Which-
website. Oh, for this book. This,
There was no vote on that.
The update on that book? I mean, is that what we're talking about?
it was to update, I don't know.
There was a discussion, but there wasn't a vote on the book, just on renewing the website. I went back and watched the meeting.
I thought that's why they were voting for the money, was so they could have access.
Cassie, have
to
you
it.
looked over this to make sure that all the information is correct?
Yes, I did read it a little while ago, and I believe all the information in here is still good and correct, aside from the website address.
Okay. I think this is a great idea to get out to all the homes in the historic district. I don't see a problem with people getting multiple copies if they have more than one property, because sometimes that's what it takes. But I would like to see us almost do a saturation of public relations around this. So I was thinking, people don't know you yet, probably in town, maybe a newspaper interview with one or both of the newspapers where she could
Well,
talk
we
about.
have, I've sat on this 18 years, 19 years. We have hit our head against the wall constantly. Obvious, we did this. This was printed when we met with the realtors at their monthly meeting, which they don't have a realtor association in town any longer. And different people would go every month, sometimes 2 people. We've saturated the market. This has been an ongoing battle ever since I've been here. Probably was when you,
It was, but I think that because we have such a frequent turnover of homeowners in our town,
there's
That-
also, some people need, I don't care where you move from, they have some homeowners association or something. They need to reach out to the city, read ordinances. I mean, and I wasn't told, that's easy to say. I think there's a lot of them just using that as an excuse. I don't know. I
I think we have to go forward, though. I
yeah.
think we have to get the mayor involved or city council and make them be standing right behind us at this saturation. With press pieces that they can maybe do that, whatever they use for their.
Yeah, because like you said, interviews in the paper, we did that. We took out ads. We've done all of
have
it.
done
I mean,
But let's do it again.
but I think it's going to, because we have new people coming in all the time and people that conveniently forget, I think it needs to be,
I'm sorry, I don't buy, they can
I
forget.
know, but I was trying to be nice. I think that it's going to have to be one of those constant efforts, to get
To
the
get
word
this
out there.
to people that buy in the historic district? Is that what this is?
Yeah.
Well,
So they
why
don't,
don't we give them to the title companies?
Yeah, there needs to be almost on a clothing pack, every closing packet.
To
when
the
you
title
close,
companies,
the title
when people
agency.
buy in the historic district.
Closing, is it too
Yeah.
late?
And the real estate agents need to give them out too.
the realtors don't. I mean, that's why these were printed.
It's better to get it sometime than never get it at all.
I agree.
I'm surprised with all of the paperwork that there is at closing when you close on a house, that there isn't something that says, I'm aware that this property is located in a historic district and I must abide by the guidelines of the historic district. I mean, buying a house is almost as bad as, having a child these days with all the paperwork and stuff that you have to do. I'm just really surprised there isn't
I know you
some
would think the
paperwork.
process somewhere, they would bring this up.
Well, that's why I said, no matter where you move from, you have some type of homeowners associate. There's just so many things for people to come here and keep saying, oh, I didn't know that. Well, when you move from wherever, you did something. I mean, maybe you weren't in a historic district, but you couldn't put an RV in your driveway, or, you know, there's restrictions everywhere. So I think it's partly the homeowner needs to open up their eyes and say, oh, is there something I should know that I can't do in this town?
Well, I mean, there is a fine in here that it says, if you
And they
go
don't find
ahead.
them.
Would they in the future, Dee, find them?
To the best of my knowledge, they've never fined. I mean, we brought that up too.
Okay, I don't know.
I don't know. We have to have enforcement. Will the,
We should have
Would that
enforced
be,
that.
would that be Paul?
That would be joint, me and Paul. Paul ultimately does the enforcement, but he's not going to go out and find someone if I don't tell him to.
yeah.
But I know, and granted, Paul and I haven't been at these jobs very long, so that's the stance we're coming from. We've been trying very hard to work with people and to get them to come to the table and do what they're supposed to do before we get to that point. There are some instances where we have said, you know, ultimately, if you don't want to follow the rules, this is where it could end up. And that's so far has been enough to get people to work with us. And we don't bring that card out very much because preferably we're not going to find people. You know, preferably people come to us and the system works as it should. I very much feel that should be a last resort.
I know there's somebody out there now that brought to my attention, and I said something to Cassie, and I know Paul already went and spoke to him before it was brought to my attention. But I'm like, they've been to us before. They knew they had to come to us and did something. I mean, I don't know where they are now.
It's a shame because
Yeah.
we, like we've always said, 95% or 97% of what comes before us goes shh.
Yep.
Because the homework's been done. You can't get your degree or your keys to your house.
I don't know why they don't want.
Cassie, have you seen this in other areas that you've worked?
Well, previously I worked for the Idaho State Historic Preservation Office, so usually people working with, you know, when people worked with our office, it was either people trying to get their property listed on the National Register, which is all volunteer, or it was, you know, people using federal money or building on state land, things that fall under Section 106, so they had to work with us by law. It wasn't usually wasn't an issue to go out and try to force people to come to the table because
You were SHPO, right?
Dee, do you remember when we went to Hot Springs where that gentleman was one of the last speakers and maybe it wasn't a gentleman, but he was so gung-ho about how his staff had done. It was a much bigger city, but his
Is it
staff-
was it, because we had a man speaker and a female speaker that were brought in from a different states.
Yeah, I think the gentleman was just gung-ho about how this can work, or mail-outs and constant reminders and can work. I don't know. But I think I'd have to go back to look at my notes from them.
I also wondered if we couldn't have a little note put on the water bill. Sometimes they put things on the water bills.
That's an
And that's a
idea.
monthly reminder.
Monthly.
You know, that people look at, you know, see how much their water bill is. And if that was on there, you know, maybe change the wording a little bit from month to month or something, like, you know, remember to do any, you know, major changes to your property, contact Cassie at HD, you know, at the
That would
city
be
hall.
something new that, to the best of my knowledge, hasn't been tried.
And I do want to shout out Paul and Jess at the building department, who have been very good when people go to them for building permits. One of the first things they do is either they'll look up or they'll call me to find out if they're in the historic district, and if so, they will send them to me right away. So I just do want to shout out our building department, who's been very vigilant.
Oh, I
about
think
that.
they've been great. I think our team right now, Cassie, Jesse, and Paul, I think they're the best that I've seen. They're working together. It's
If
just,
they're
good.
working together, there's
Yeah.
evidence of that everywhere.
yeah, I am just so happy that we have this new team.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And
I'm impressed with them.
And I do think that with that going forward, that we'll see fewer people come to us and say, well, I didn't know.
Screaming.
Because they
Yeah,
haven't even been here a year. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
And if we're going to have, copies of this possibly going to title companies, I could also give a stack of them to the building department for when people come in.
I think that would be a great idea.
we could
And-
just have an address label thing made
Start to say, couldn't
with
we
everything we need on here and just,
I'll sit and sticker for an hour.
Yeah.
yeah, we can just put the stickers on there. I mean,
Then, do we have to, no, we'd be paying the postage a different way, sorry.
I do think the title companies would be a good choice as well, though.
I do
Because I don't care if somebody gets 5 or 6 of these, at least they have some awareness that they are in a historic district.
Well, the whole town's almost a historic district, so, once you buy within the city limits, you're pretty darn close to an historic district somewhere, some way.
the tree houses aren't.
No.
But
It
we
ends at
quits-
Sherwood Court.
I was going to say it quits at Sherwood Court and some of the things on the other side of the road. I mean, and then when you go out through Harts, Harts is in it, but across the street,
It ends at
McDonald's,
McDonald's.
and, yeah, they're not. Then you go through to East Mountain, to Pine Mountain Jamboree.
And that is something that I think is part of what's good about the outreach, because even people who have lived here for decades don't realize how big it is. I was explaining to someone the other week that, it pretty much just north of McDonald's is the southern border, and they had no idea it went that far south.
I heard a conversation that I wasn't supposed to be listening to, I'm sure, in a restaurant about non-contributing and stuff like that. Maybe there's a way to re-emphasize that even though your house might be brand new, or new to you, it could very well be contributing, and this is what we do
Yeah.
about helping you keep your house contributing.
But living in the historic district, my house, okay, the one back here is historic. The other one was built in 95, 96. It is not contributing, but I still am in the middle of the historic district, and I have to go
To the
see
commission.
Cassie.
Well, that's what I mean.
That's-
Yeah.
Maybe a true description or something.
Because
in
what
a
I
newspaper
often,
article.
what I often tell people who ask me is, if your home's non-contributing, that gives us some more flexibility in what your options are, but there's still design guidelines, you still have to go through the process.
This person said, well, my house is not contributing.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that so many people don't understand that we're not here to be the pretty police, as Dee likes to call it, but we are here to document changes in footprint, in colors, it's a documentation process for history,
Yes.
you
They're
know.
all, and I'm always surprised how many people don't realize, they have to go down to the city office, all those file cabinets, they're alphabetical, and you just go look up your address by your street. And you can pull your folder, ask Cassie, they'll help you get your folder. You can't take it out of the office, you can sit there and read it and take pictures of the folder, but that's the history. I mean, you can know everything about your house if you come and get it documented.
From 74 on,
Yeah.
yes.
I think it would be, again, put it in the newspaper article, make sure that that's part of what the question is that they ask you.
I think we'd get some advertising out of it being, since this started in 1970, it's 55 years.
Yeah.
Since this town's been on the historic registry.
So-
And since the city's started celebrating 125 or whatever it is on the 4th of July, maybe we could play into that, with a big anniversary.
Well, and why people come and want to live here is because of these historic homes and our historic businesses and all, and we don't want to lose that. That was the charm of why you fell in love with this town, why you came here, the majority of the people, and if you don't protect it, it's gone.
Shame on you if you don't
Yeah.
protect it.
Yeah, yeah.
We just have to keep track
We're trying.
of all
Well-
the changes that comes through.
It is going to be, I think, one of those things that we just have to do every couple of years.
Yeah.
There needs to
think
be
so.
a new awareness because you're always going to have new people moving in. You know,
You know, and the last time we did all of this was probably a year before, probably 2018 or so, when we did all this. Then we went into COVID, so things didn't happen.
and I don't remember ever seeing this.
I've seen it at these meetings.
It was mailed out to everybody in town.
Huh?
A lot of them came back, as Kathy probably has some with return. We used up all of those.
I don't know.
They were sitting around and we used them a lot for different functions instead of, we didn't trash them. And,
Well, let's make a work plan then.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do, before we get to that, when I make the stickers for this part, I do think I'll add our preservation website on there. That's a resource I want to get better at staying on top of, but I also want to promote more for people to access, because we do have a digital version of the design guidelines linked there. There also is, a link to the map of the town that shows both the boundaries of the historic district and zoning districts. So I want to make sure that people know that that website is available if they have questions. They don't just have to come to me and say, what are the rules? They can also look into some more, especially with these guidelines, which are very good for a homeowner to know what's preservation practice. Less what you bring to the table, but definitely what's good preservation practice. And I want people to know that that's available.
Okay. All right. So what's our first task then? Stickers for
the
the,
stickers
I think
made.
stickers is first.
okay. So are you going to keep track of this, Cassie?
I'm going to try.
Okay. Okay, so stickers, and if you need us to come help, just
Yeah.
give us a call.
Yep.
Newspaper interview. Would you call both newspapers and volunteer to be interviewed? Really stress I think, what Susan said about, our anniversary coming up of the founding of the town,
Yeah, I thought that was
and that's a great tie-in. Then, taking them to title offices.
Well, there needs to be like a pamphlet holder in each one of the places, like in every real estate office, there needs to be a section of these puppies. And every
Well-
title agency, there needs to be.
We can ask them, we cannot,
Well,
it's a
there-
private property, so you can
It-
ask them.
It's not listed in MLS anywhere that it's an historic home or it's contributing or any kind of verbiage like,
But we can't make them put this in their office. We can ask them to please put it in their office.
No, I'm sure they will.
but they're trying to sell something and they're falsely advertising if they're not telling the people the truth.
Well, you have to go tell them that. We can't. We're just a commission.
Bring them on.
You don't want me to get started on my opinion of it.
And then the water bill. Do you
Yeah.
know who you
Yeah,
can
I
talk
think
to about the water
would be
bill?
Great.
Not sure who to talk to, but I have some ideas.
Okay.
So I'll ask around the office and see if that's even possible, and who
Well,
would
they've-
be in charge of that.
They've had other
Yeah.
messages on water bills before, and even if we couldn't have it on there every month, if we had it,
Yeah.
4 times a year,
Yeah.
I think it would be
Once
good.
it's on there, though, if it's not in the way of something, why couldn't it be on there every month? I mean, they're not going to have to reprint.
Right.
You know.
What else
It'd be
was there?
wonderful if it could be.
Half the time you can't read them.
I like it when they send me two.
I get 2, one for my garden
Yeah.
thing, yeah.
Well, I got two in the same month for like 5 days apart. And I happened to be standing in the post office and Butch walked in and I go, do I need to pay both of these? He said, uh-huh.
So was there anything else?
What did you have in mind, Cassie?
No, I don't think so. When we get these made up to go out, I would appreciate help in getting those to title companies or real estate offices or anyone who would want to have a stack to give out to property owners, so that's not all on me, but I can go to the post office and get a bunch mailed out, work with them on that.
Okay.
And do we need to vote, or do we need to talk about the mailing costs?
I might talk to them about, since this says US postage paid, if we, for any ones that are currently printed, I might talk to them about if we need to pay for this or if this is already good. But for any ones we have to print after this, we'll probably have to
Yes.
vote on spending the money.
Does it cost money to insert newspapers?
Yes.
Yes.
Like, you know,
Yeah, it does.
like a sale flyer or something, you know?
Yeah, they charge.
Cassie, I say you make up some questions that you want to talk about and say, here's what I'd like you to ask me in the newspaper reporter.
Be prepared.
Okay.
Be overly
I
prepared.
mean, I'm not telling you what to do. I don't mean that, but it's like, don't forget.
Listen, you think that we should put these in at the title company and at real estate offices? Because I'll go around and take them.
Okay,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
I'll take a case of them, and I'll take them to all the real estate offices and give it to them. I know they'll take them.
Yeah.
You know, it's only good business.
If we
It's a
had
tool.
some,
Yeah, it's a tool.
It's a tool.
yeah, if we had some of those little clear plastic holders,
Yeah.
that would
Do we
help.
have them?
I don't think so.
They're
We're
certainly
probably-
available.
They're like
though,
brochure holders.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we could,
Do we have any of those?
Probably order some.
Bessie?
I don't think so.
No? No, maybe they do at the offices. Well, I'll ask and see.
It'd be better if we had one.
If we took it in there.
yes, because otherwise they'll stick them someplace.
Yeah,
I
no, we
I
don't want
don't
that.
think they'd be very expensive, though. If that-
They're
they-
not.
They'd be less than 22 cents a piece, probably.
Yeah, we don't have that many real estate offices in this
I
town,
don't know if I
really.
still have,
To be
No,
truthful.
we
I
don't.
may have some. How many realtors do we have?
Probably 4 or 5.
I'd say there's got to be under 10.
10?
Under 10, I'd say easily.
I used to use them all the time at the bed and breakfast.
Yeah.
And I may have a whole bunch of them.
I started to say, everybody, they're everywhere.
If I
We'll
have
just start-
them, we don't need to buy them.
Well, we might check with the chamber.
How many title companies do we have?
Well, there's one
I just know of 2, so, but I'm
down the
not sure.
street here, then over,
There used to be one at the community center, but I don't know if it's still there or not.
well, across the street from the community, that one.
That's Caldwell Banker. And there's Ann Morgan. And there's McClung Realty, but
Oh, I was talking about title.
I don't know what they
Title.
have
Well,
an
the
office.
title
And then there's
company
Morgan.
at,
Yeah.
The other end of the bank right here
Right.
downtown, yeah.
and then is there still one
All
under
Seasons.
the Bank of Berryville, or it's not the Bank of Berryville anymore, but 1889?
I don't
1889.
think so.
There isn't? Okay. And then the one up on top of the hill by the Joy Motel?
You know, the chamber might not be a bad place to put some too, because a lot of people go in there when they first decide or they're investigating a move to the community, they'll go to the chamber.
What about that place up there where the trams go?
The what?
The trams,
The
up next to
trolley
the
stop?
Trade Winds Motel?
Oh, the depot?
That, yeah, you know, where they can
Trans
catch
Depot.
the tram.
The
They have
trolley.
brochures up there.
Yes, but there, people paid that man, it's a business, and he puts them in, and he's paid monthly to go update
Update
those.
them.
Because there's one at the train station, there's one at the transit center. Yeah. But they're not done for free, I mean.
I
Well,
bet
They
the
shouldn't
chamber
charge us for these things. This is an effort for the city itself. I mean, nobody's, you know, making money off of this.
Cassie, can you make sure that our city council members each get one?
Yeah. I can give them to the city clerk to put in their packets.
I think that would be good.
Steve Hollyfield knows about
Would
it.
it do any good to give them to Planning Commission as well?
I can do that.
He was responsible for part of it.
What else? Can you think of anything? Did you have any ideas that,
I can't think of anything. Speaking of planning commission, since I shouted at the building department, they also, when stuff comes to them, that they know is in the district, that's usually their first question to me is, did this get HDC approval? So
Good.
They're also aware of
They're
what
very
they need to
aware.
come here.
But I mean, I think they'd also be glad to promote
Yes.
that, I do.
Yes.
What would be the danger if we did lose the town certification for historic?
You mean on this bill?
Well, it's been around 55 years, some things don't last forever. What would happen to the town if we would lose our citywide historic?
Our standing?
Yeah,
Well, isn't it national, though? I mean,
Yeah, we're a national.
we're a
well, I
national.
mean, are there anything we need to go and fire for? Because,
Well, yes, this bill that's coming up, that's up to the legislature, is that Friday? Cassie sent you guys all out that
Right.
email. Okay, it's passed the Senate City. Now we need to contact all the legislature, your person, we need to contact them, write letters, send emails that we are against that. They like to hear from your
I think
people who vote for them.
the biggest risk should design review no longer be allowed of this historic district is you would lose essentially the historic character. Sooner or later, the majority of the buildings would be changed enough or bulldozed and replaced that you would no longer have what makes Eureka Springs great. Because even, and I say this also coming from where I did in Idaho, even people who have the best of intentions and love the historic buildings, sooner or later, but I want to put in vinyl windows. Oh, but this building, though, is dilapidated and in the way, and people just stop saving their history. Preservation is, unlike some other countries, preservation in America is very hard to fight for. You have to have people who are passionate about it, and you have to have rules in place. So that's why I think both having our district be part of the municipal code, having it protected by Arkansas state statute, and having it listed in the National Register is what allows this town to keep its historic buildings looking the way they do with incentive and it improves the tourism of this town, which ultimately is the biggest benefit in this town. I mean, I would say the biggest benefit is the history, but looking from an economic perspective, the biggest benefit of the preservation is the tourism that it draws.
That's why we moved here. We wanted to restore an old house.
Just think of, you guys can think of lots of homes. The right person comes along and we don't have any rules to go by. They can bulldoze it and put anything they want to there.
You can go to any big city, well, really any size city, that has had historic buildings that have been
Yeah.
not protected and bulldozed down.
Let's look at our library. We have
We have a Carnegie Library.
library. This same library was in Little Rock. It was bulldozed down in a parking lot there. They lost theirs.
there's not a lot of Carnegies left.
No, we're one of the main ones, and there's a few back east.
There's
I mean,
one in not Denver, but there's one Montana or something like
Yeah,
that.
there's several.
One in Idaho.
Okay, maybe that's what it is. I just read about it.
I mean, there's several still scattered
Yeah.
around, but just think.
But that's an interesting story about the Carnegie.
Oh.
But if you look at the scarcity,
Yeah.
if the concept of scarcity, and they're not building any more historic buildings.
That's what I'm saying.
And
Just right
we
down
can't
there,
replace them.
4 hours away, they lost theirs, and this has been a few years, because I know it was a hot topic when I first moved here, and every time I went to an HDC thing, they were talking about it, and I'm like, you really let them, but it wasn't in a historic district, it couldn't be saved.
Just save it.
Yeah, and Eureka Springs is very unique in having one of the first historic districts in the country, and therefore one of the oldest historic districts in the country, and I think that alone makes it so special. It's, sort of the start of the whole preservation movement.
So Aren't there some that are older, though, over on the East Coast, in the Northeast? Like
There-
Nantucket and,
I think there's some older local historic districts, but as far as ones on the National Register, because the National Register started in 1968, I think was when the National Historic Preservation Act was passed. And this was founded in 1970, so it was in that first slew
first
of
wave.
listed places.
That's great. I think that would be a great thing for you to say in the newspaper article.
Do you think I'm ready?
I think you're more than ready.
Yeah.
Well, we could just write it. You don't, just write up what you want in it. I mean, we can all look at it. And then we give it to the newspaper, and because we're going to have to pay to put it in anyway, so we can write what we want to put in it. I mean, not necessarily.
Usually if it's just like an interview or an article, you don't have to pay.
Well, I know when we were fighting the
HDC?
Minsky, that's his name.
Yeah.
To keep the HDC when it was on the ballot, we wrote all these articles. And, you know, we gave Glenna, and she'd write all these articles, and then we paid to put them in.
Yeah. I think an interview would be
It
a
was
good.
like $300.
good Start
Yeah.
there, and if we have to end up paying, maybe we do, but.
And introduce yourself.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know you yet. You're fairly new.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it might be good if they wanted to interview Paul at the same time. You know, the new building inspector.
Scott? I'll call Scott and see if we can.
Maybe have an issue focused on new city employees.
Well, I could talk to her too. Okay, I'll go in and see about if they'll just interview, or do we have to pay? Let me ask them both.
Does Steve Grant still own a house here? Does Steve Grant still own a house here?
Who?
Steve Grant, the newspaper, or the
KY3?
KY3 reporter, he has a house on, or he used to have a house on Spring Street,
Oh, I don't know.
because he loves Eureka Springs. I think
I
that.
heard that. I don't
It's,
know if
the- oh, it's,
I don't know if he still has the house.
I don't know if he does either, but he loves to
Which
come
house
here.
it was,
I don't know which house it was, sorry.
I don't know.
He's done a lot of coverage.
But they love to cover Eureka Springs.
I know they
too.
still have the camera on the,
Oh, yeah, they show it almost
Here on
every
the
night.
It's on every single day at my house.
Yeah.
But I think he'd probably send a reporter down here to interview you too about, you know, the upcoming national, you know, birthday or whatever it is. And then this is how we got to our great location.
let's see.
If Cassie wants to
No, we are.
Cassie wants to be on TV?
Never done an interview before. My grandma watches KY3.
I started saying, that's
not
it.
a big deal.
I have
It's
direct
all
TV and
really
that's what I
easy.
get.
I have Dish TV, and that's the only thing I get.
I've been on the Maryville one many times, and KY3 a few times, and with the tour of homes. They're real nice.
What do you guys think
And a
about
lot
the
of it
stamped
re-
concrete?
Get recorded,
Do you like that look?
and you're not on.
That fake limestone look?
It's
They
better
saw your
than just
mistakes.
Talking about the
flat concrete.
No, I'm just talking in general, because we pass it down here. Or, it's just, I think it looks awful myself. You
You
know,
don't like the way it looks.
way back when I was on the commission, if it butted up to limestone, you had to replace it with limestone. You know, we didn't use imprinted concrete until, well, if it was just a straight stretch of old cement, you know, and there was no limestone on either side, then we would let you fill it in with that and make it look like limestone. But now it seems like it's just taking over the city.
Because it
Isn't it for
can't.
safety, though,
I
the
was going to say,
reason they
isn't
stamp
it
it?
isn't a slip factor?
Yeah.
You don't
That was
slip on
part
stamp?
of it, but
If you etch it properly, you won't slip on it.
we voted on it a long time ago. We had
So
to,
they voted on that a long time ago to change this?
yeah, and they all did the stamp probably 2015.
Yeah? Well, there you go.
Do we have anything else on the public outreach? Or are we good to close the workshop?
I think we're good. I think it's a good plan. It's not too overwhelming at first.
I'm looking to see how old we're
People
going to
may
be.
have some more ideas later.
Yeah,
I think we dipped our toes sufficiently.
yeah.
Yeah. But thank you for finding these.
With
I think
Yeah.
this is a big
Oh,
help.
this, are we back on this again?
Nice to not
Yeah, we
reinvent the wheel.
can't
Yeah.
talk about anything else till we,
Yeah, let's because that's where
What's the workshop?
yeah.
This is the work.
For this only.
Oh, for this only?
Yeah.
Yes. And this,
we can walk up and do it.
And what's
I'm
that
looking to
supposed to
see
be?
how old we're
this is
going
for
to be.
the post
Do we
office.
want
If I can see it this here.
I can stick.
Every door direct mailing.
I only work 3 days a week.
It's just some information before I went and spent our money on mailing stuff.
It's
And
not
keep it
bad
as an
at 2
option.
cents apiece.
Yeah.
It's pretty reasonable.
2 cents?
Yeah.
22 cents.
22 cents.
Oh, 22. I missed a decimal.
Yes, you did. A very important one.
Well, it's still cheaper than a stamp, isn't it?
That's cheaper than
Okay.
a 75-cent stamp.
Are we finished? If so, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Thank you both.
Yeah.
for this meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Debbie made the motion. Maggie seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion carries 4-0.